Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. Gentleman yields back. Now I'll recognize the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Duncan, for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, thanks for joining us. Today will be the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, I'd like to commend you for considering the new standard for portable generators. This new standard will require the installation of technology to lower emissions of harmful carbon monoxide. Sadly, we've seen some recent deaths in Texas, Louisiana, resulting from harmful emissions of carbon dioxide from some of these generators. These deaths are entirely preventable. The proposed CPSC rule will save lives since it would apply to all companies that make or sell portable generators in the U.S. I hope the CPSC will move as fast as possible to issue this proposed regulation. I'd be interested in the timeline for when that would be issued, Mr. Chairman.
At this point in time, we have to provide data on the underlying injuries that, unfortunately, because of the large number of injuries and incidents that you're pointing out, is taking us some time. It's probably more likely to be in the coming year as opposed to the current year.
All right. Unfortunately, I have to contrast the good rule that you guys hopefully will roll out with the awful rule on table saws, a rule which kills the table saw industry in my district by mandating the entire industry add patented technology at great cost to the benefit of a single individual. It's simply unacceptable and unconstitutional. And that's why I'm a proud co-sponsor and lead Republican on H.R. 8181, the bipartisan legislation introduced by our Democrat colleague, Ms. Perez, that would overturn this rule. I'm glad that the Appropriations Committee has also included language in this year's bill that would eliminate the funding for this rule, and I hope that you will note the bipartisan nature of our opposition to your work. I would also note that the same FSGG bill also precludes your work on the ill-informed rule on off-road vehicles, which are also made in South Carolina. Part of what makes the portable generator rule workable is its reliance on the UL voluntary standard is precisely what's wrong with these other two rules. Rather than allow industry to serve customers with what works, you're trying to overrule them in ways that simply aren't common sense. Commissioner Feldman, I noticed you dissented and provided an extensive statement on the table saw matter. Can you talk about that?
Mr. Duncan, I appreciate the question because I am opposed to this rule as currently drafted. I'm concerned that it would add significant cost to the table saws that contractors and hobbyists use every day without offering much in the way of additional safety. This isn't a hidden hazard. The rule would raise significant competition concerns and threatens to concentrate market power in a way that I believe would be highly problematic. Monopolies are bad. Government-sanctioned monopolies are worse. And SawStop's pledge to dedicate just one of its over 140 patents was a stunt. The patent isn't even the patent it's asserting to keep competitors out of the marketplace, but is currently drafted and giving SawStop's continued litigiousness. I'm not aware that staff has identified a path forward on this rule. At the same time, I'm not sure that there's a majority to remove it from our agenda, so I do worry that the Commission could move to finalize this rule absent clear direction from Congress to the contrary.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right. So we've had the good and the bad. This brings us to Commissioner Trumka. You have a history of name and shame letters that seek to bully manufacturers with the air of government authority that, let me be clear here, is completely illegitimate. Meanwhile, you famously decline meetings with manufacturers you seek to regulate. You aren't seeking consumer safety. You're just trying to bully American companies, which you don't like. The rulemaking process requires consensus among the Commission and allows fairness. Recently, Commissioner Trumka was allowed to work independently outside the rulemaking process and was successful in shutting down sales of a category of products from being sold at major retailers. You even used CPSC stationery to do so. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter in the record a copy of the letter that he sent on CPSC stationery.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. Leading some to believe that this was a communication from the full Commission. This decision was based on insufficient data and no formal definition of this category of products. This sets the wrong precedence for CPSC against industry, rendering industry's efforts to conduct studies, share data, and work through the processes rather pointless. So, Mr. Chairman, how can a single commissioner be allowed to effectively induce a ban of product category or ban of a product category without any due process or a commission vote?
So, as you noted, this is not an action of the whole commission. Each commissioner has the ability to go and speak their minds and preferences. I have made sure and asked that commissioners be clear about when they're speaking for themselves as opposed to when they're speaking for the commission, and to put that in the writings going forward. But at that point, I'm sure you wouldn't want me to tell my Republican colleagues to be quiet and not talk, is each commissioner has the ability to go out, state their preferences. It's important, though, for them for people to understand
Yeah,
when they're
but it
speaking
comes
up.
across as bullying, and it comes across to the industry that it might be an official position of the CPSC. Commissioner Trumka took several meetings with consumer advocates. However, he does not respond to industry meeting requests. CPSC is a regulator, not a consumer advocacy organization. How can a commissioner do his or her job without meeting with all the stakeholders? Is that common practice at CPSC?
Sir, I appreciate the question. I accept information from all sources. I think it's valuable to do so. I've sometimes declined meeting requests with regulated entities when we have an open agency action, but I'm always willing to accept written information.
It's not what I've been told, but I'll take your word at it. You're also known not to announce meetings on the public calendar in a timely manner or on time. How can industry rely on CPSC to be fair to all parties when such basic steps to encourage inclusivity from all stakeholders are repeatedly and intentionally ignored?
Oh, I post.
I'll allow the gentleman to respond, but quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I post all of my meetings publicly and timely. They're available on the CPSC's website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman yields back. Now I recognize Mr. Soto from the